Hi everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today I have this special graphics card. This right here is a Gigabyte HD 6970. Yup, this is my own video card that I've been using for about a year now. This GPU is based on the Cayman XT graphics processor and it comes clocked in at 900 MHz. This card also has 2GB of GDDR5 memory, which comes clocked in at 1375 MHz. And this card has 1536 shading units, 96 TMUs, 32 ROPs, and it supports up to DirectX 11. Let's see what this beast can still do in 2021. So, before testing it, it was time to grab this card out of its home, which is my own PC. I bought this card back in February of 2020, so before this channel was even created. It has been with me through various PC upgrades which I did in the past year and it never let me down. I think that as a thank you for its service, it would be a good idea to give it a clean. So, time to clean it. This has been one of the biggest GPUs that I've ever had to take apart, but it was pretty easy nonetheless. While I'm cleaning it, it's also a good time to clean the thermal paste which has been put on it by the previous owner before he sold it to me. With the die completely clean, time to clean all of the GPU parts. For the PCB I just used a brush which worked out pretty well. Then it was time to clean the thermal paste off of the heatsink and take it apart. Time to clean the fans, which went from looking like this to looking like this. And the heatsink itself went from this to this. With the card all cleaned up, time to reassemble it and apply some new thermal paste. Now let's have a look at the ports on this card. This card has an 8+6 pin connector for power, and for video out, this card has a DisplayPort connector, an HDMI port and 2 DVI ports. The card has these 3 fans to keep it cool, and in the time that I used it, this card has never overheated. Now it's time to put the card back into my PC. This is my test system. It features an Intel Core i7-3770K, 8GB of DDR3 RAM and an Asus Sabertooth Z77 motherboard. After trying to boot it up for the first time, I forgot to plug in the fans. Luckily this board and the fans can have a bit of flex, so I did not have to take apart the whole GPU just to plug in the fans. Now with the fans plugged in, time to boot the PC up and go into Windows. After that, it wasn't time to install the drivers, since I already had them installed. Now, time for some benchmarks. First off, user benchmark. User benchmarks showed that the i7 and the HD 6970 were both performing as expected. The other benchmark that I used was Heaven. On the high quality preset, Heaven got an average FPS of 45.9 and a score of 1156. Time to move on to some games. Minecraft on the highest settings with a render distance of 15 chunks got an average FPS of 77 with 1% lows of 26 FPS and 0.1% lows of 19 FPS. Roblox on the highest settings got an average FPS of 59 with 1% lows of 39 FPS and 0.1% lows of 2 FPS. The 0.1% lows mainly came from loading in maps. Freddy Fazbears Pizzeria simulator ran absolutely fine, but that isn't a surprise with this powerful of hardware. Ultimate Custom Night is the same story as Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator in that it ran absolutely fine. Euro Truck Simulator 2 running at high settings was more than playable. I got an average FPS of 50 with 1% loss of 29 FPS and 0.1% loss of 20 FPS. To continue on with the theme of the last review, Bus Simulator 12 is an absolute mess. On medium settings I got an average FPS of 27 with 1% loss of 9 FPS and 0.1% loss of 7 FPS. I don't know if the game is that heavy or if it's just unoptimized. Back to some good running games. CSGO on medium settings got a max FPS of 520 in the benchmark, and in game I was hovering around 150 to 200 FPS. This game is absolutely playable. The card does start showing its age when you throw some heavier titles against it. Like here in BeamNG Drive on medium settings, the card got an average FPS of 36 with 1% loss of 22 FPS and 0.1% loss of 1 FPS. The game is definitely still playable, but the card is for sure struggling. On medium settings, Bus Simulator 16 was definitely playable, although it did have some lag spikes. I got an average FPS of 41 with 1% loss of 4 FPS and 0.1% loss of 1 FPS. If you don't mind the light stuttering from time to time, then this game is definitely playable. A game that also had some lag spikes, although having them less severe, was PC Building Simulator. In this game the lag spikes were caused by the parts loading in, which is more understandable than just random lag spikes. I got an average FPS of 53 with 1% loss of 22 FPS and 0.1% loss of 8 FPS. On the medium preset, Fortnite was definitely playable. With an average FPS of 55 and 1% loss of 25 FPS and 0.1% loss of 16 FPS, this card is definitely suitable for this game. A game that surprised me in how good it ran was GTA 5. Of course I expected it to launch and play at medium settings, but this card ran GTA 5 at high settings in 1080p and still got an average FPS of 41 with 1% loss of 31 FPS and 0.1% loss of 24 FPS. This game is definitely playable. And after that, it was time to uninstall the drivers and shut the PC down. Is this card still usable in 2021? Absolutely. I got this card at a bargain price of only $20, but even for $60, the price that I see these cards for going online, I still think that it's a good GPU. The Gigabyte version that I used also stayed quiet even under load and it never got above 75 degrees. All in all, the only thing that kind of sucks about these cards is that the driver support ended in 2016. At the end of the day, I would still recommend this card if you are searching for a budget card to use in 2021. And with that, this video comes to an end. Thanks so much for watching, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!